So good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, which is Making the Most of Assistive Technology for People with Brain Injuries. Thank you for joining us, and my name is Rachel Ishak, and I'm a community outreach specialist with the Brain Injury Alliance of New Jersey. And the Alliance is a nonprofit organization with a mission to provide education, awareness, prevention strategies, advocacy, and support for people who have been affected by brain injury. So I'd like to announce that we will be hosting another webinar next month on February 9th on trauma-informed care. I will put the link in the chat if you are interested in signing up. You can register through there. Now, I just have a couple of housekeeping notes before we begin. Your microphones have been muted, so if you have any questions, please use the Q&A box to put in your question, and we will get to as many questions at the end of the webinar that we can. And the webinar is being recorded, and we will have it available for viewing afterwards on the BIANJ website, and it will also be in a follow-up email. At the end of the webinar, you will receive a link in the chat for a post-webinar survey. We value your feedback, so you are encouraged to complete that survey, and you must complete the survey in order to receive a certificate of attendance. So once you complete that survey, you will automatically receive that certificate of attendance in an email. So our presenter for today's webinar is Sally Haggerty. Sally has a master's degree in special education, and she also has a New Jersey teaching certificate and has been working in the field of assistive technology since 2000. She has had experience teaching students with multiple disabilities, individuals who are blind and visually impaired, adults who are interested in returning to work, and adults who are experiencing difficulties in everyday life due to traumatic brain injuries. In her current position, Sally is working with teachers, students, parents, and adults to help adapt technology to their individual needs and to help teachers and school staff discover adaptations that will best help each student achieve his or her potential. So I am pleased to welcome Sally. You may take it away, Sally.
Thank you, everyone. It's nice to meet you. As Rachel said, I'm an assistive technology specialist, and I've been doing this for about 22 years now. And I work for Advancing Opportunities, and we're an agency we're in Burlington County, and we work with individuals throughout the state of New Jersey. And for us to be able to work with an individual with a brain injury or any other need, we get referrals from different agencies throughout the state. We get referrals from case managers from the TBI fund, from DVR, the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, Department of Developmental Disabilities, and schools. So today we're going to be talking about assistive technology and adaptations for people with brain injuries, and I'm going to be sharing my screen. Oop. Hold on a minute. So one of the things that people may not be aware, but Apple devices, iPhones and iPads, have many accessibility options, and they are excellent devices for people that need any kind of accommodations. There are display accommodations, which I will be sharing my iPhone screen shortly to show you some of the accommodations. The display accommodations can be dark mode, light mode. You can make the text size bigger, bold the text. The iPhone can also speak the content. There's a gesture for that, which I will also demonstrate. And there's something called Reader View. Another thing an iPhone is great for is it has Siri. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Siri, but you can use Siri for general information. For example, you could say, "Hey Siri, what's the weather today?" Or Siri, how far is the nearest gas station? You can also use Siri to put appointments on your calendar. There are so many of my clients that forget appointments, or they don't know when an appointment is, or they never put the appointment on their calendar. So with an iPhone, you can say, "Hey Siri, put an appointment on my calendar with Sally for next Wednesday at 5. And she might say 5 p.m. or a.m. Once you clarify, she'll say, "All right, the appointment is on your calendar." So that's all well and good. You can have the appointment on your calendar, but what if you forget on Saturday when the appointment is? So instead of having to go through the entire phone and try to figure out where the appointment is with Sally, you could say, "Hey Siri, when is my appointment with Sally?" And Siri will let you know, "This is what I found." And then Siri will display the appointment. There's an appointment with Sally for next Wednesday at 5. So that can be very helpful for people. You can also type your appointment in the calendar. You don't have to speak it. But it can be very, very helpful, especially if you know that you put the appointment in the calendar somewhere, have no idea when the appointment is. And instead of having to search through every single day, you can just ask Siri. There are also apps that are available, and I'm going to show you this really neat app later on in the webinar that I think you'll really enjoy. Also, with any smartphone, you can use the camera for a magnifier. You can take a picture of something and then zoom in on it. So iPhones and smartphones in general can be very helpful for people that have any sort of vision difficulties. iPads as well have the same options as everything that I just discussed. Larger screen, obviously. And a lot of people with brain injuries prefer to have video appointments for cognitive therapy, for example, or even video doctor's appointments, if that's an option for them. And it's a lot nicer to have a larger screen, which would be a tablet of some sort, to use for Zoom meetings such as this, virtual doctor's appointments, virtual therapy appointments. So iPads are frequently recommended for that reason as well. And there are cases available with stands so that the iPad will stand up, so that the person doesn't have to hold it the whole time. This slide is just about Android devices. So Android phones also have the ability to use voice to do searches, and they can have cognitive therapy apps on there as well as the font sizes and bold text. It's just that with the iPhone, there are a lot more accessibility options available, and they're much easier to use. At this point, I'm going to stop sharing my PowerPoint, and I'm going to share my iPhone screen so you can see some of the things that are available on there. This should be coming up in a second. There we go. Okay, so currently you should be able, can everybody see my iPhone screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go into my settings and display and brightness. Right now I have the light display on. So as you can see, if I go anywhere on the iPhone, my display is bright. That is what my email looks like. I'm going to go back in my display, which, let's see. I'm going to change to dark mode. Many people say that the dark mode is much easier for them to see. This is what my email looks like now. And the screen is just easier to see in dark mode. Also, as you can see, this is still in display and brightness. There's an area for text size, and you can use the slider at the bottom, that little white dot you see at the bottom, and I'm sliding that to the right. So it will adjust your text size larger until you feel that that is comfortable for you. Also, there is an area for bold text. So you can see the difference even on this screen, what the difference is for the bold text. Brightness is another option. Sometimes individuals have difficulty with brightness. It causes too many headaches. So you can adjust the brightness according to what your needs are. There is auto lock under display. That is where the phone automatically turns the display off and you have to put your password back in. So I have mine set to 5 minutes. Okay. So those are some of the display options that I was talking about that are available on the iPad, on the iPhone and iPad. Another thing I wanted to go to, as long as I'm here, is the web browser. So if you look at the bottom of my cell phone screen, in the bar at the bottom, the middle icon looks like a compass. If that is the Safari browser. So Safari browser is instead of Google Chrome or Microsoft or whatever have you. So I will click on the Safari. Now I am on a, can you guys still see this screen?
Yes, we could see it.
Okay, my cell phone screen. All right. So right now you're seeing restart your Apple Watch and it's a white background. If you look at the very top left of the screen in the address bar where it says support.apple.com, there is a little a and a small capital A and a big capital A. That is for reader view. So I'm going to tap those two A's and you should be able to see where it says show reader. When I clicked on show reader, now my screen is black and all of the other distractions from the screen are gone. Another thing you can do here, if I tap on the two A's again, this is where you can specify what color you want your background to be. And you can tap the A's at the top of the screen to change the font size. So this is all available within the Safari browser. When you see those two A's, for almost all web pages, reader view is available. And when I want to get back to the main web page so that I can navigate, I just click on hide reader. So that is a very, very important feature that's available on iPhones and iPads that is not available on Windows computers or Android devices. So I did want to share that with you all. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing the phone screen and I'm going to go back to share my PowerPoint. Okay. This is just a screenshot from Apple's webpage. there are two different iPhones that are being displayed. The iPhone on the right is the larger iPhone, the iPhone Plus, and the one on the left is your standard iPhone. So the iPhone, Apple just came out with a new iPhone just the other day that is the 14 Plus. So it is the larger size, but it is not the Pro. This is helpful because we don't always need all of the features of the Pro, which costs a lot more, but the larger size phone is definitely helpful for a lot of people with brain injuries. On the other hand, some people prefer a smaller phone that'll fit more easily in their pocket, and that is available in an iPhone as well. This slide is showing an iPad with a keyboard case. So it's a little hard to see the keyboard because it's white, but as you can see, there's a stand that's holding the iPad up, and there is a keyboard in front of the iPad. So there are cases with stands that don't have the keyboard. So if you prefer to type on the iPad screen, you don't necessarily need to have a keyboard stand, but it still does help to have a stand, an iPad case for protection that also has a stand. That way you can use your iPad for Zoom meetings or cognitive therapy meetings or virtual meetings with your doctor. And also sometimes it's just more comfortable to have the iPad standing up instead of having to have your head bent down to look at your desk. There's an app called Otter that's available for both iPhones and Android phones. And the Otter app is really, really helpful for people. I'll just tell you what I would use it for. Sometimes you may go into a doctor's appointment and you'll sit there and the doctor will be giving you all of this information. And you think you've got it and you say, yep, yes, I understand. When you get home, you might say, what did the doctor say? Or you may have a family member that says, what did the doctor say? What are you supposed to do? At that point, me included, I might say, I have no idea. I remember they said something about blah, blah, but I don't remember specifics. So the Otter app lets you record a doctor's appointment or meeting, and it also transcribes word for word what the doctor and what you said. And you can go back later and pull up the entire transcript and the audio recording. Now, that being said, obviously you need to request somebody's permission to record them. Usually if you explain to somebody, I have a brain injury, memory is really hard for me, or if you don't want to divulge that you have a brain injury, you could just say, my memory is not as great as it used to be. Would you mind if I record this meeting? Hopefully they will agree to that. I will show you on my phone what the Otter app does in a minute. The Otter app is free and it's available for Android or Apple or iPhone. And the free version lets you record, I believe it's 200 minutes a month and 40 minutes at a time, unless they changed 40 down a little bit. The paid version gives you a lot more minutes per month and longer recording times. It doesn't limit you to 40 minutes. For most of my clients, the free version works well. So I'm going to, again, share my iPhone screen so I can show you what the Otter app looks like.
Sally, while you're doing that, a question came in that I would like to ask.
Yes.
The individual is asking if the Otter app is available in other languages other than English.
Oh, I don't know. I can try to look that up. I know when you first get the Otter app, let me see if I can look at it on my other phone. You have to give it your email address and all of that. Let me see. Manage vocabulary. Oh. There's a manage vocabulary. But it didn't look like it asked me for languages. I am not seeing that it's available in other languages, but I can look into that later. And I can email you and let you know. Okay. Is my iPhone screen available now?
Yes.
Okay. So the Otter app is on my phone. It's on the bottom row and it says Otter and it's got like an O and some lines in blue and white. So I'm going to click on that. Now, as you can see, there is a light blue microphone icon on the bottom right of my screen. I'm going to click on that. Now, everything that I'm saying, and likely everything that Rachel says, will be transcribed. Rachel, could you say something?
Sure. Is this picking up what I'm saying?
Perfect. Okay. So it breaks down the conversation into little time chunks as we're talking, and it will transcribe everything that is being said. And as you can see, the transcription is really quite accurate. Once the meeting is complete, you click on the white, well, for me, it's a white square because I have my dark screen mode. Click on the square on the bottom left. That is the stop button. And now my note is processing. And I'm going to click on the 3 white lines on the top left corner of my screen. Here you can see the third item down is called My Conversations. I'm going to click on that. The top one should be the conversation from today. There is a date, but it's being covered by that little thing. All right, so it has today's date and time. And it has the entire transcript of what we've said. And also at the bottom left, you'll see that there's a play button. So I'm going to press it now, but I don't believe you may or may not be able to hear this. Whoop. Whoop. Hold on. Here. Okay. So that was the recording from my phone. So it was actually playing the entire recording of the phone, and you had the written transcript. So as long as the person that you're meeting with gives you permission, you should be able to use the Otter app to help you relay information back to your family members or for your own reference after your meeting.
Sally, I had just a couple of questions about the Otter app, if you don't mind.
Sure.
One person asked if you're able to download the transcript, and I guess meaning outside of the app. I know you're able to access it within the app, but can you download it to be accessed somewhere else?
Yes, the Otter app. Can you still see my phone?
Yes.
Okay. So up in the top right corner of my screen, there are 3 dots. If I touch those, it lets me export my conversation, so I can export the text, or there is the little person and it lets me email this. So I can share a link to the conversation, I can email it to anyone, and then they can access the recording and the text. So yes, if I have a family member that lives far away, I can just send that to them, or I could send it to my cognitive therapist. This is what the doctor said. And they can hear the recording and read the entire transcript. That was a great question.
Very good. And are you able to title the conversations, the recordings that you have and the transcripts?
Yes, so this, I did a long press on that, and I can just click where it says note, and I can say, I can retitle that note from webinar. January 26th. Yes, so you can rename them so they don't all just say note, and you can share them.
Great. And then does it pick up if there's a different voice? I guess it separates the lines out if they hear different voices speaking, so you can tell that there are 2 people in the conversation?
You know, if I go back to everything that I'm saying,
Oh, it just comes out as one.
yes, it just came out as one.
Okay.
So when I said, Rachel, could you say something? And then your sure is in there. So it came out in that one. The same transcript.
Interesting. Very good.
Okay.
Yep. I think we are good.
So I'm going to stop sharing that and go back to sharing my presentation. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about is printers. Some people already have printers in their home. What I'm going to be talking about is an all-in-one printer, which is a printer, copier, and scanner. Some printers also say that they are faxes. However, that requires you to have a landline phone. So for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to be talking about a printer that is also a copier and scanner. Many of the people that I work with have mounds and mounds of paperwork in their homes. Bills, doctor reports, applications that they've saved, housing applications, and the paperwork is everywhere. It becomes very overwhelming for people to have all of this paperwork everywhere. And it is actually one of my clients' biggest concerns. Just how do I organize all of this paperwork? What do I do with it? And they also, many of them they live in small apartments and they don't have room for a large filing cabinet or for all of this paperwork. So what we talk about, and what I go over, is if they have, or if we can recommend an all-in-one printer, that usually having it wireless is also helpful. People can learn how to scan documents into their computer. So you just put the document on the glass or in the document feeder, scan it into their printer, and it goes from there into their computer. Once it lands on their computer, we also need to help people learn how to move those documents into folders. So we can help people figure out what kind of folders do they need. Do they need a folder for bills, for receipts, for medical reports, housing applications, rent, anything that they need to be able to scan a document in. Then they can recycle their documents or shred them, depending on how sensitive the information is. And that will help reduce clutter. Frequently, people have so many documents that they may actually need the help of someone for home organization to help them spend the time to scan the documents. But if we've done an assistive technology evaluation and we help someone learn how to use their equipment, we can certainly show them how to scan their documents and start helping them to scan their documents. But from then on, they'll either need the help of a professional or from a family member to help get all of their documents scanned and then recycled. Also, the other thing that's great about scanning is that many times a doctor's office will want a copy of a report, and instead of faxing it to them, a person could scan it and then email it to their case manager or to their doctor, whoever's requesting the information. So scanning the document into the computer can also help someone to be able to email that document instead of faxing it. A lot of times I'll hear people say that, you know, it's hard for them. They have to leave their house. They have to go to Staples and pay to have something faxed. And this way, if they have an all-in-one printer and they can scan something in to their laptop or iPad, then they can email it from there. So that is a really helpful tool to have. Okay, this next thing, I don't know how many of you have heard about a tile. These are 3 pictures of tiles. I did not bring my keys up with me, I'm sorry. The tile on the left is the tile for keys. The one in the middle, you'll see a little circle on the TV remote. That is a button, I believe it's called, or a sticker, and that helps find a remote. And the one on the right is just a flat, a little bit larger than a credit card, and that could be slipped into a wallet or a pocketbook, or a book bag to help find that. So the nice thing about this, the great thing about this is even if you have your phone on silent mode, if you have the left one, the tile, on your keys, you can press the little round button in the middle that says tile. If you press that 2 times, a really loud alarm will ring on your cell phone, even if your cell phone is in silent mode. So the tile that is on your keys can be used for 2 things. It can be used to find your phone if you've misplaced that, and it can be used to find your keys. So if you've misplaced your keys, you go onto the tile app, and keys will be one of the things on there. And you just tap the icon for keys, and it will ring this little tile. It's about an inch square. It'll ring that on your keys really loudly, so you'll be able to find your keys. The app will also show you the last place that your item was located by the tile. The middle thing is the same thing. It's the remote. So you would go on the phone and tap the remote button. And if there's a tile on your remote, it will ring very loudly on the remote. And the one on the far right, the same thing, but for a wallet or pocketbook. The thing that I do tell my clients is that the tiles do have batteries that need to be replaced approximately once a year. So you do want to test your tile. about 6 months in, and just make sure that it's ringing loudly, so that in case you really do need it to find your keys or your wallet or your phone, that you're not going to find out that you've got a dead battery and it's not working. But there also, Apple has a device called an AirTag. You may have heard about those on the news. Very similar as to a Tile, works primarily with your Apple devices. Although people do even put AirTags on their dogs' collars. But you do, I believe you do need an Apple, like an iPhone, in order to use an AirTag. The Tile doesn't matter if you have an Android or an iPhone, but you do need a smartphone, and it will work with the Tile app. The next thing, some people may have Echo Dots. Echo Dots come in all different shapes and sizes. I have a small one here. And there are some that are larger and have speakers, like larger cylinder ones. And this particular one in the picture is an Echo Dot. This works similar to Siri, but it's actually in your home. So you can use an Alexa or an Echo Dot. I'm using those terms interchangeably. You can use them to set a timer. So I could say, Alexa, set a timer for 10 minutes, and the timer will go off in 10 minutes. I can use it to set a reminder. I can say, remind me at 2 o'clock that I need to start making dinner. The next thing is really cool. It is a recurring reminder for daily tasks. I tried this out and it does work. You can usually do that in your phone, in the Alexa app is probably the best way to do it. But you can use the Alexa and say, Alexa, remind me every day at 10 o'clock to take my medicine. Or you could say, remind me every day at 8 o'clock to get ready for the day. And the reminder will work every single day at a specified time and remind you what you asked it to remind you. So I did use this. I set a recurring reminder for 10 p.m. every night. And every night at 10 o'clock, this reminder will come on until I cancel it. So that's a really helpful thing for people who have any sort of memory issues. You can use it to remind you to get ready to leave for an appointment. I use this all the time. And I just get caught up in things, as many of you probably do as well. I might be really busy reading or busy watching something on TV or just busy fooling around on my computer. And I remember when I sit down, I might remember like, oh, got to remember I've got a 1 o'clock appointment. But what's super helpful is to use the Alexa to set a reminder to get ready to go. So if I know I've got an 11 o'clock appointment, I will say, Alexa, remind me at 10:40 that I have to get ready to go. And that reminder will come up. That way, no matter how busy I am, no matter how caught up I am in what I'm doing, that reminder will come on. So that's very helpful for me, and I imagine it could be very helpful for a lot of other people. The last one is something that I tried out this morning. I knew that it was available, but to be honest with you, I never tried it out. So today, I set a location-based reminder on my Alexa app on my phone. So what I told it to do was I set a location-based reminder that when I get to the Wawa near my house, it's going to remind me to buy coffee. Obviously, I know that's why I went to Wawa, But this could be helpful if you go to the grocery store and you don't remember what you needed. So you could say, remind me when I get to ShopRite on Route 130, and put the address in that I needed to buy, and then you could list it. When you pull into the parking lot, it worked for me like a charm. I pulled into the Wawa parking lot. I had a ding on my phone and also another reminder sound. I looked at my phone and it came up with the text, remember to buy coffee. I also set it to remind me when I leave my house to make sure I turned the oven off. It kind of worked, but it wasn't as effective as I would have liked it to be. It reminded me about a block away from my house. So, if that came up, remember to turn your oven off and I'm a block away from the house, I guess technically I could have turned around and double checked it then. I wish it would have reminded me as I was walking out the door, but I didn't see that as an option. But it could be really helpful if you, put a reminder for a specific address when you arrive at that address. This is an Echo Show, and they come in different sizes. This is one of the lesser expensive ones. This is the same basically as an Echo Dot, the little reminder that I showed you, but it does have a screen. The Echo Show can be used for video calls with family if they have an Echo Show at their home, or if they could even have an Alexa app on their computer. So it can be used for video calls. It can be used for, you can look recipes up and it'll actually display the recipe on the screen. So you can scroll through and actually read the recipe that you looked for. Basically like a little computer, you can look things up, you can look up recipes. You can even watch videos on it, although it's a very small screen. I wouldn't recommend that. The last thing that I put on there is it can be used for a Ring doorbell, a Ring video doorbell, or any other video doorbell to see who's at the door. So the apps need to be synced with one another. But once the apps are synced, the Alexa Show with the Ring or Nest or whatever doorbell it is, then when the person rings the doorbell, you will actually be able to see who's there. So if you're someone who doesn't have a window in your door and you can't see who's there, and you may have a high level of anxiety about opening the door, and if you don't know who it is, this could be helpful for that. Cognitive therapy apps. So I'm sure that many of you have, if you have a cognitive therapist, have been given recommendations for cognitive therapy apps, or maybe you've even worked on some apps like Lumosity, for example, with your cognitive therapist. Cognitive therapy apps can be used on smartphones. They can also be used on some computers and also iPads. So a lot of them I would recommend. It's a lot easier to do these apps if you're on an iPad or some other sort of tablet that has a larger display than a phone. And many of my clients, that's what they say, that they have Lumosity, but they're looking at it on this little 5-inch screen and it's hard to do. So if you have an iPad or a computer or any other tablet, you can use some of these cognitive therapy apps. Some people use Lumosity, which is either free or paid. There are puzzles, word searches, crossword puzzles, QCard and CanPlan are both apps that help people with daily tasks. CanPlan, for example, is a to-do list with picture support. So it may actually have something like, put your laundry in the washing machine, and you can have a picture of the washing machine. And the next step could be set the wash setting, and you could have a picture of the dial on the washing machine where the setting should be. So CanPlan or QCard is very similar. They are paid apps, but they can be very useful to use. If somebody, frequently I'll, have someone say that they remembered to put the wash in the washing machine, but they didn't know what to do after that. So this would be a perfect way for them to have help with that. The last thing on this list is MediSafe. MediSafe is a free or paid app. And with MediSafe, you can actually put your prescriptions into the app, and there are pictures of the medications that can be input to the app. So when the reminder comes up to take, your allergy medicine, it'll have an actual picture of what that allergy medicine looks like. The MediSafe app can also be connected to a family member, so that when you take your medicine, you can check off that you took it, and your family member can look at the app and see that you have taken it. I believe that part is the paid app, where it connects to a family member. But your cognitive therapist would be the one that would definitely be the best one to help you to decide what apps would be helpful for you. If the cognitive therapist lets us know, could you help them find some puzzle apps, then we could certainly do that with them. We could try some crossword puzzle apps or word search apps with them and help them to install those on an iPad. But many times the cognitive therapist will have very specific apps that they want their client to work with, and we can help with that installation as well. Some apps are also available for the computer. And again, that's something that can be looked into by the cognitive therapist or by a technology specialist when they do the evaluation. Okay, finally, I did want to leave some room for time for questions. But, a summary is to ask your TBI case manager if they feel that an assistive technology evaluation is appropriate for you. We are one of many agencies that do these assistive technology evaluations throughout the state. So your TBI case manager may or may not recommend advancing opportunities for you. There are other agencies that do this as well, depending especially on where you are located in the state. But please feel free to email me if you have any questions. I'd be glad to answer your questions, and you can refer to the webinar. Let me know that you attended the webinar, and then we can discuss the questions that you have. If you do have any, if you want to send me a text message, the phone number 609-955-4512 is the best way to reach me, and you can send text messages to that number. The number below is Advancing Opportunities number, and that is a general information number that you could call as well. Another thing I did want to tell you, and I don't have a slide for this, is that we do have a technology lending center. It is part of the AT Act, that is a federal program throughout all of the states, and Advancing Opportunities is the technology lending center for the state of New Jersey. What that means is that any resident of the state of New Jersey professional or individual, can contact us and borrow any number of pieces of equipment that we have. They could borrow an iPad, for example. They could borrow a large print keyboard or a keyboard with a key guard if an individual has some tremors. We've got some other things. We've got a feeding spoon that helps reduce tremor for, it doesn't reduce the tremors, but it helps someone eat food independently if they do have tremors. So there are a number of things in our lending library that can be borrowed for a 6-week, mostly a 6-week trial period, free. Anyone in the state can borrow these items. The only thing that cannot be loaned out is augmentative communication devices, AAC devices. Those are usually something that needs to be worked with an AAC specialist that we have on staff. Other than that, the lending library, you can go on our web page and look up the lending library. And you can also call me or email me if you want me to send you the link for that. Now I'm going to send it back to Rachel. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we can see what questions there are.
Yes, great. Thank you so much for all that wonderful information, Sally. And we do have some questions, so I'll just take them down the line as I see them here. We have a general question, just in your experience, do you know, have doctors been opposed to people using the Otter? What's kind of the general attitude toward maybe using that in the professional setting?
I actually haven't gotten any feedback about that, but I've recommended it a lot. So I think if there was pushback, I probably would have heard from my clients that, they wanted to use it and they haven't been allowed to, but I have not heard one way or another. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you for that. Then we had another question here. Do you ever do classes or Zoom meetings with basic computer instruction so somebody could learn how to organize their scanned documents in different files?
If we have done an assistive technology evaluation and recommended equipment, we recommend training to go with that. So then I would, I would be able to either meet with them in person or meet with them over Zoom to provide training for that. As far as the other things are concerned, no, we don't usually do a general Zoom training for that. It's something that I could talk to my agency about and see if they would like to possibly set something like that up. But we don't ordinarily provide training unless it's something that is directly related to an evaluation that we did.
Okay, great, thank you. And kind of a similar question line with that is, you mentioned somebody having a TBI case manager. So this person was asking, how does one get a TBI case manager?
Okay, so from my knowledge, and Rachel, you can chime in as well, once someone has a traumatic brain injury, the first thing to do is to apply to the fund. And once you have applied to the fund for services, the fund will refer you to a case manager. So there are case managers, there are support coordinators throughout the state of New Jersey, case managers, and different agencies. And I don't know, it seems to me that it does kind of depend on where you live. There's case managers that are up in North Jersey near Newark, and her cases I get are from that location. But the first thing to do is to go on to the Traumatic Brain Injury Fund website and apply to be in that program. And I believe there are certain criteria that need to be met. And one thing that I was actually kind of surprised about this, but I guess that's what the definition of traumatic brain injury is that your brain injury cannot be the result of a stroke or other medical condition. it actually has to be the result of brain trauma, such as a fall or an accident, which is really, that makes me kind of sad, because a lot of people that have had strokes have identical problems as what we've been discussing, but they don't qualify for help through the brain injury fund, although they may be able to get help through other state resources. But that's your first step, is to fill out an application with the traumatic brain injury fund.
Yes, thank you for that explanation, Sally. And I put in the chat a link to the TBI fund. So if you click on that, you'll see some of this information that Sally's talking about. And we also have, that's for the TBI fund, but here at BIANJ, we have care managers who don't have to do with the TBI fund, but if you have trouble accessing services and just need help kind of navigating some of these things, you could always reach out to our organization and we would connect you with a care manager through that. Great, so we have that question here. And then we have some questions about maybe cheaper solutions, because Alexas are really great, but sometimes they're a little costly. Do you have any suggestions of something that may be a little less expensive?
Actually, the dots right now, they're about, I mean, it may be costly for some people, but they've come down a lot in price. You can get them for about $30, I believe, on Amazon, or $40, something like that. They're fairly inexpensive. Other than that, you can use reminders on your phone. Like I said, you can, if you have a smartphone, you can use reminders on the smartphone. What I prefer about the Echo Dot, for example, is that it'll actually talk to you. On my iPhone, I could put reminders, calendar reminders, all kinds of reminders. They will pop up on my phone, but it will be text that I need to read. Whereas with the Alexa, it'll actually say, Sally, remember to take your medicine at 10 o'clock tonight, or something like that. So having the auditory reminder is a lot more helpful. The Echo Show, you know, once you add a screen to it, they are more expensive, but the Echo Dot is probably as inexpensive as you can get for that. Just wanted to look at that.
I'll interject too. There was a suggestion that came in and said, you know, if the Echo Dot is too expensive, maybe look at getting an older model, because they might be cheaper than the most current model.
Right. I'm looking at the 4th generation and it's $25. So they go up from there. But it's $24 right now is what they are on Amazon.
There's another question here about, you know, for somebody who can only have such limited exposure to technology before they start having headaches or other types of symptoms, is there a way to avoid, you know, that screen time intolerance?
Okay, so one thing that I didn't show that I was planning on showing and didn't was the speak screen. So if I do pull up an article on the iPhone, did you want me to show that real quick, or do we not have time?
We are running out of time, but if you feel
Okay.
like you can show it.
I could just, if I have speak screen enabled on my phone, I just take 2 fingers and swipe down from the top of the screen to about the middle, and it will read the entire screen out loud. So if I could just navigate to a web page and then use speak screen, it'll read it out loud and I don't have to look at it. The other thing that definitely helps is having your screen on dark mode, and that helps a lot. And having the large text as well. Other than that, I mean, there are audio books. You can have the screen read aloud. On Windows computers, there's, if you use the Edge browser, there's something built into the Edge browser called Immersive Reader. So you can highlight text right click on it, use immersive reader. And then what will happen is you can change the background of the screen. Again, you could have a black screen and you can have your text read aloud there as well. So I would say for the most part, using the dark screen with the white text is my client's preference. It's what helps them. And actually that's what I use all the time. And also just having text read aloud instead of having to read everything.
Okay, great. I know we have a couple of other questions in here, but I think we're running out of time. So if your question wasn't answered today, you could always reach out to Sally. She had put her information there, and maybe we can put that in the chat as well. And you can also reach out to me via email, and we will try to get your question answered for you. So thank you so much again for joining. And we're going to put in the chat as well a link to the post-survey evaluation. So if you could please fill that out, that would be wonderful. We really appreciate your feedback, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you on February 9th for our next webinar. So this concludes today's webinar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sally. Sally, if you don't mind, I'm also going to put your information in the chat, the email address we have for you.
That's fine. Yep.
Great.
Did you think it went okay?
Yeah, I think it's great.
Oh, good.
Everybody, yeah. It was a lot of good questions, and I think a lot of good feedback. So
Yeah.